What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in to Late to Hoops. Today's video, we're going to be discussing the Utah Jazz and their very unique start to the season that they've had. We'll be touching on their ceiling, what the future draft holds for them, and much more. But before we get into this video, I want you guys to go to the comments right now and let me know, do you guys think the Jazz are going to make the playoffs, or about towards the All-Star break we might see them start tanking in orders to improve their odds at the draft lottery? Let me know in the comments right below. Let's get started. Obviously, as you guys know, Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck have done a tremendous job surrounding and kind of laying the foundation for this team's rebuild. We did not expect to see the start to the season that we did, but we definitely did expect to see the draft capital build up, and we were going to hopefully see them draft accordingly in the future years. Utah has the right to their own 2023 draft. Utah also has the right to the Minnesota Timberwolves 2023 first round pick. That pick is unprotected. They did just acquire that in the Rudy Gobert trade, and they also have the rights to whatever the least favorable pick is between the Brooklyn Nets, the Philadelphia 76ers, and the Houston Rockets. They got this pick when acquiring Royce O'Neal. Now, obviously, we can kind of scratch the Rockets out, and that leaves us with the Sixers and the Nets, and we did think both of these teams would start the season or at least perform well enough to make it into the playoffs, but I believe the Nets are sitting at 11 and Philadelphia could be sitting at 13 right now. I just did a check and the Sixers are sitting at 9 and the Nets are correctly sitting at 11. Now, this does not mean that that's where they'll finish. Obviously, any team with James Harden and Joel Embiid or Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, the ceiling is tremendously high. However, the floor is very low. You know, if Kyrie isn't playing games and Kevin just so happened to get hurt, then we could definitely see this Brooklyn Nets team fall into somewhat of a, okay, we're taking another year off. We're going to be the 8 to 10 to 11 to 12 seed. And the same thing goes for Philadelphia. If Joel gets hurt while Harden's dealing with injury right now, I don't think Maxey and Shake Milton and the rest of the supporting cast could promote enough wins in order for them to at least grab a playoff or a play-in. Like, we're in such a competitive league right now. There's no time for missing or having your superstars miss 20 to 30 games. So that pick, whether it's from the Rockets, the Sixers, or the Nets, it should be at least a somewhat decent first-round pick. And then you have what's honestly the second most interesting pick in this equation, that 2023 Timberwolves pick. As far as the Jazz are concerned, the Timberwolves are sitting at 10th right now in the West, and they only have 5 wins, and 2 of those wins were against the Thunder, who are 13th in the West, and they're obviously a tanking team. All in all, it doesn't matter if it's the Jazz's own first round pick, whether it's the one they received from the Rudy Gobert trade or the one they received in the Royce O'Neal trade with the Nets. Either way, the Jazz are going to have 3 first round picks this next year, and that leads me to wonder, what is the Jazz's ceiling, and should they be tanking in order to increase the odds in the lottery? As you guys know, there's only 2 teams, one out west and one out east, that have 10 wins, and one of them is the Milwaukee Bucks out east, and the other one is the Utah Jazz out west. I've said this in a previous video, and I'll say it again. I don't think anyone would have predicted this start for the Jazz team. I mean, honestly, they're looking like such a systematic offense, and I just have to give my flowers to Will Hardy. They're playing amazing team defense under him. Mike Conley looks like an amazing facilitator, like he's drinking from the fountain of youth. Everyone on this team is just looking so poised. They're all okay, understanding their roles. Now, having said that, that does not mean that this is a necessarily super playoff contender or even championship contending roster or team. But when you're 10-3 and you come off to this amazing start where you're 5-0 at home, you're on a 4-game win streak, you're putting together great wins of great teams, do you just slow down the season? Do you tell your guys, hey, we have a generational talent named Victor that's coming out of this next year's draft class, guys, and it would be better if he was in the locker room with you? Or do you keep making that push and keep laying the groundwork and hoping that, hey, we're going to make the playoffs? And to me, that kind of seems like they're moving into mediocrity backwards, because obviously, as you guys remember, the Jazz, they were a phenomenal regular season team. That has never been the problem with the Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert Jazz. The only issue has been that once it comes playoff time, it's not successful. And you could say that's Donovan's fault, or you could say it's Rudy's or Quinn Snyder's, who's no longer there. And you could say that this Jazz team is completely different from the ones we've seen before. However, it's just very, very interesting. In my opinion, I would say don't stop a good thing while it's going. Let the heart beat as long as it can. If the Jazz can win 40 or 50 games and make the playoffs this year, by all means, I would say do it. I understand that the pick next year could be Victor and it could be franchise changing, but you could waste and tank this entire year away for Victor, bring Victor in, and then he could tear his ACL, and then you'd be right back at square one. I understand that drafting talent, it's very, very important, and it's a risk. It's not guaranteed 110%, but what is guaranteed is that if you make the playoffs, you have at least 4 games to prove that you're better than the other team and win. For this Jazz team, I would just say, guys, as I look at this roster, I think less and less that it is a championship contender and less that it can go deep into the playoffs. But then when I ask myself, what really do you need to win a championship, I sort of am reluctant to say that, because they have an amazing sixth man in Colin Sexton or Jordan Clarkson. In the playoffs, I don't know who's going to be playing at the starting 2-guard spot and who isn't, but I know that both of those players are very, very capable of scoring 20 a night. I know that you have Mike Conley, who's more than capable of averaging 15 to 20 points a night and 7 to 10 assists a night while just generating positive offense and good looks. I know that they have a center in Kelly Olynyk who can produce great efficiency from not only downtown but also just make heads-up plays on both offense and defense. I know that they have a forward or 2-guard in Malik Beasley that is more than capable of creating his own shot and getting his own bucket. I understand he hasn't been very efficient on his career, but that's okay. And then finally, they have the 4. They have Laurie Legend, Laurie Bird. Everyone's memeing and making great fun of how remarkable he's been playing this year. I mean, he's averaging 22, 8, and 3 on pretty decent splits, especially from the field. I mean, shooting 52%. That's leagues better than what he's been shooting to start his career. And I honestly could just not be more proud of this Jazz team. I need you guys to go to the comments, like I said at the beginning of this video, and let me know, should the Jazz tank or should they try to keep making the playoffs? In my opinion, you guys know what I said. They should keep making the playoffs. If you guys made it this far, you're a real one, and I appreciate you very much. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.